There are so many questionable scenes in the Hobbit trilogy, you might not have noticed this one.
Why the halfling?
I do not know.
Despite incredible performances, this scene encapsulates the biggest problem with the Hobbit trilogy, and we have good evidence to believe Tolkien would agree. It might surprise you to learn that this scene was completely invented for the movie, but while its dialogue is new, it was trying to echo something old. Specifically, this iconic moment from the Fellowship of the Ring.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
We know this because its director, Peter Jackson, said,
What's at the heart of the speech is this ties into the speech in The Mines of Moria in the second film when you say it was the pity of Bilbo that stayed his hand.
And so the first thing that makes it so odd is that while trying to replicate a moment from The Lord of the Rings, it contradicts what made that scene so great. Because despite dropping profound wisdom, Gandalf's objective here isn't to sound wise, it's to comfort Frodo.
I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened.
Gandalf's response is the spark that ignites real change in Frodo. The change that ultimately allows the ring to be destroyed begins with this conversation. But where the Fellowship of the Ring depicts a conversation, The Hobbit depicts a speech. Despite Galadriel posing the initial question, she then literally and metaphorically disappears from the scene. And so while it's tempting to say that Gandalf is only speaking to himself here, that isn't entirely true, because he's also clearly speaking to the audience. Turning his back on Galadriel like a stage play, Gandalf moralizes to us that
I found it is the small things, everyday deeds of ordinary folk, that keeps the darkness at bay. Simple acts of kindness and love.
it's a nice message. But beneath that is a huge misunderstanding for how Tolkien wrote about morality. He was firmly against instructing his audience. Tolkien's own moral compass was based in his devout religious beliefs.
Oh, I'm a Roman Catholic. Devout Roman Catholic, yes.
But he very deliberately chose to, quote, cut out practically all references to anything like religion in The Lord of the Rings. It was important to him that religion was, quote, absorbed into the story. And so in the same way that Tolkien disliked allegories because of how they dominate readers toward a single meaning, he likely would have felt that this kind of explicit moralizing belongs more on Sesame Street than Bag End. Tolkien would also probably quibble with the idea that evil is defeated through
simple acts of kindness and love.
Tolkien instead depicted a world where evil is defeated through enormous acts of courage by simple people. But the irony is that the filmmakers were so close to achieving their goal with this scene, because Tolkien himself answered the question they pose.
Why the halfling?
In Tolkien's Unfinished Tales, Gandalf says, quote, I began to have a warm place in my heart for hobbits in the long winter. That was the time to see their pity for one another. It was by their pity as much as by their tough, uncomplaining courage that they survived. It's ironic that Hobbit's tendency toward pity is what drew Gandalf to Bilbo. Since pity is at the core of the scene the Hobbit was trying to imitate.
Pity? It was pity that stayed Bilbo's hand. The pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of men.
Simply put, if the movie had stayed faithful to Tolkien, it would have organically mirrored this scene. And so despite Ian McKellen's amazing performance, despite the music trying to make us feel emotion before Gandalf even speaks, this scene simply tries and fails to imitate a better moment from The Lord of the Rings, which is a fairly accurate summary of the Hobbit trilogy as a whole. And so while there are more viscerally upsetting scenes in The Hobbit,
aren't you going to search me? I could have anything down my trousers.
There's something more sinister about using the ingredients I love to make something that's so hard to swallow. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing for more.